Well, everything's set up. Hopefully the key pros work today. I don't want another SD card
That
attached.
would just be another debacle or have it like fill out and the memory's full and have
Hey, guys.
to show
What's going on here?
Hey, it's Cody.
Cody, how are you?
Good.
Are you're missing something? Something's
No.
missing, right?
No, I was told to come
Do
here
we have-
Monday.
No.
Do we have donuts?
Where are the donuts?
I didn't know that was like
You
my
seem a
option.
little
Where the
different, Cody.
shirt? Where's the shirt? Is
Uh,
this a new shirt?
I'm having an off day.
I don't like change here.
How are we supposed to know what it is?
But I'm having an off day.
I can't put my finger on it. You know, we'll talk about this later. But
Okay.
first, this is Sports Zone.
Hello and welcome to another week of Sports Zone. We finally got our technical difficulties worked out, so we should be coming out with content on the regular basis now. And we're going to start off, as we usually do, with Studio 90. I'm joined by Jessica and Ryan, and we're going to jump right in and start with the Champions League, which returned last week. 4 matches last week, 4 matches this week. We're in the round of 16. Some pretty big, high-caliber matchups. Last week, PSG played Chelsea and Roma played Real Madrid in the marquee matchups. And then we've got Arsenal playing Barcelona this Tuesday, as well as Bayern playing against Juventus. So we're going to start with the matchups. Last week, Ryan, one of our favorite topics on Studio 90. What's the deal with Chelsea? What happened in that match against PSG?
Well, Paris Saint-Germain is still no slouch of a team. So definitely we were expecting a high-profile matchup. Wasn't as boring as some of like Real Madrid PSG that we talked about earlier this year in the Champions League. But it's Chelsea. They've had their ups and downs. They just came off a huge win against Manchester City in the FA Cup. So again, will Chelsea probably rebound and get their Champions League spot back next year? Probably not. But I definitely think that it's hit and miss. Chelsea's one road goal could be very big in the long run.
Definitely, yeah, Chelsea. But, keep your phones on because Chelsea doesn't have a center back. Could be making up calls to anybody at this point in time. John Terry and Kurt Zuma are hurt, so they're really, really depleted in that area. The other matchup that happened last week of note, Real Madrid playing Roma, Cristiano Ronaldo and Jesse Rodriguez scoring the goals for Real Madrid. Jessica, Real Madrid kind of struggling and falling off the pace in La Liga, now 8 points behind Barcelona, I believe. So do you think the Champions League is Real Madrid's only realistic chance at getting some silverware this year?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's no way that they will probably catch up to Barcelona. That would take a miracle. So I guess La Liga will have to wait another year.
Yeah, definitely. Barcelona with Messi, Suarez, and Neymar are a pretty insurmountable force that Arsenal in North London on Tuesday will have to try and slow down, maybe so they can at least have some momentum going into the away leg. So with that in mind, Jessica, do you think there's any possible way Arsenal can pull this out, or do you think Barcelona is going to do what many people think and just absolutely slaughter Arsenal?
I honestly think they're gonna slaughter Arsenal.
Yeah, that would be something a lot of people in the Premier League, like to build up the Premier League as the best league in the world. So this is, they look at these marquee matchups and they really have faltered in the past. I think if a team in the Premier League doesn't get to the quarterfinals, it will be for the 3rd year in a row that a team from England did not make the quarterfinals. So that's a pretty big deal. So now we're going to switch. Bayern and Juventus is the other game on Tuesday. Ryan, we've talked about Bayern in the past. Maybe they don't really have any competition in the Bundesliga. Do you think it's kind of a collision course, hopefully, for a Bayern-Barcelona final?
I think it's very possible. But granted, Bayern always has a very bad first leg in these knockout stages. They've proven that in the past. And then all of a sudden, Pep Guardiola gives the miracle speech, and all of a sudden they'll win their second leg 5-0. But I think it's definitely going to be interesting, and I think it is possibly a collision course for a Bayern-Barca final. For Juventus is no slouch of a team either. They're by far the best team in Serie A. They have a lot of talent. Gianluigi Buffon is still playing like the man, like he was 22.
Yeah.
So honestly, anything happens. Will Lewandowski show up? Will Muller show up? It really all depends on which Bayern team shows up to the stadium that day.
Yeah, that's definitely a classic case of strong offense against a formidable defense. Juventus typically is one of the best defenses in all of world football, with Giorgio Chiellini leading the line there. They are depleted this year as they don't have Andrea Pirlo, but they've replaced him with Sami Khedira, and they've got Paul Pogba, who's one of the rising world stars, and I think they're on a 13-game winning streak in Serie A, so they're very hot at the moment. But kind of jumping from Champions League, we're going to go to international soccer. The Copa America Centenario will be played in America this upcoming summer. The draw for that was yesterday, and the U.S. didn't get as favorable a draw as maybe they were expecting. So, Jessica, do you think maybe in a group with Colombia, Costa Rica, and Paraguay, the U.S. kind of has to maybe alter their expectations for this tournament a little bit?
Yes, for sure. I mean, Colombia has had one of the best outcomes in the 2014 World Cup for CONMEBOL, with James Rodriguez doing really well in Real Madrid as well. And Costa Rica is actually ranked higher than the U.S. right now, so for sure I think that they're going to have to step it up a lot.
Definitely, because even if the U.S. doesn't get, if they get out of the group but they finish runner-up, Brazil potentially is waiting as would be presumably the winner of Group B. But that's way off in the future. Champions League, we're going to keep our eye on this week. That's all the time we have this time on Studio 90. Stick around for more hard-hitting analysis on SportsZone.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm Nathaniel Gath, and this is AU Insiders. This week, there's a big week for AU men's basketball with two big overtime wins versus Lafayette and Holy Cross. In the Lafayette game, Charlie Jones hit a game-tying three-pointer and sealed the game's fate with a game-winning three-throw. The crowd went wild inside Bender Arena as it was AU Founders Night, where you could get these sick free t-shirts. The man went on the road against Holy Cross in a nail-biter that occurred on Sunday at 12:05. And what was the big talk of this game was that senior Jesse Reed, along with senior Marco Vasic, as well as freshman Andrea Matic, all fouled out of the game, including in the game went into overtime. With around 2 seconds left, freshman Delonte Jones backs it in and hits a one-handed layup to seal the game for the Eagles, winning at a total of 71-70. Jesse Reed, even though he fouled out, was the game's leading scorer with 18 points for the Eagles, and as well as Marco Vasic and Delonte Jones netted 12 points throughout the game. For the women's side, the women are currently on a 3-game skid, unfortunately, and their last game was a 59-50 loss against Holy Cross here at home on Saturday. But other than that, the women attempt to bounce back this Wednesday versus Navy at 7 p.m., which is over at Annapolis, as well as the men have a game at 7:30 p.m. here at Bender Arena, so make sure you show the Eagles pride. The men and the women also end their season streak, but with 2 games at home, including a doubleheader that is on Saturday. The men and women both play Loyola Marymount, so come out and make sure that you show your Eagles pride. And the women end their regular season on March 2nd here at American University, as well as with the men beating Holy Cross in that nail-biter in overtime. They secured themselves a home game for the Patriot League tournament, which is huge. So make sure that you come out, support the Eagles as they try to make the NCAA tournament again after falling really short last year in the finals. On the other side, women's lacrosse won their home game on Saturday against St. Joseph's 15-12 and hope to keep on their winning streak versus UMBC on Wednesday. Thank you so much. This has been Nathaniel Gaff for AU Insiders.
Welcome to Throwing It Up. This is our weekly NBA segment. Right now, the big news is the trade deadline. We had some movers, or maybe more notably, non-movers at the trade deadline. So you have some mid-level teams trying to get better. We had a few contenders trying to make some moves just to maybe give the team a better chance now that we're at the home stretch of the season. So Guys, what was your biggest surprise, Vincent or Jake? Let's start with you. What was the biggest surprise that you saw at the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, on a macro level, I guess the biggest surprise is, like you said, the biggest surprise is that there were no surprises. But also, probably the biggest team that I was surprised didn't make any moves were the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics have, of course, been linked to rumors throughout the entire season, going into last offseason. A lot focusing around David Lee and their first-round pick they owned from the Nets, as well as the one they owned from the Mavericks. So a move from them was to be relatively expected, but they made no moves whatsoever, not even moves to solidify their bench or moves to move on from David Lee and his extremely large contracts, who they actually ended up releasing after. So that would have to be the biggest surprise in the trade deadline for me.
Yeah, and of course, Danny Ainge did say that they were working on some deals. Apparently, they might revisit it in the offseason. Who knows who he might have been referencing? Maybe it was Dwight Howard. Vincent, were you surprised that Dwight Howard didn't move, find a new home this trade deadline?
You know, there was a lot of talk surrounding Dwight Howard and where he would go, and so that I think a lot of people thought that maybe he was going to move and this was going to maybe be a big trade deadline where you had a lot of people moving. There was a lot of other names. I heard Kevin Love's name floated on some of the trade blocks, potentially Carmelo Anthony getting out of New York. But I would say Dwight Howard, maybe the experiment in Houston hasn't really worked out as well, and with a ball-dominant superstar like James Harden there, his role is kind of questionable. So I was expecting to maybe see him get offloaded somewhere, so I would say it's a bit of a surprise to see him still with the Rockets after the trade deadline was coming past.
Yeah, but one move the Rockets did make was sending Donatas Motiejunas to the Pistons, although that deal is currently pending some. The Pistons are looking into his health status, and their deadline for making that deal official has been extended by the NBA, so we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. Another big move the Pistons made was dealing or making the deal to get Tobias Harris in the Pistons uniform, which is probably the biggest deal. Happened a few days before the deadline. Jay, can you speak to how that affects the Pistons' chances moving forward? They have a very young roster, including the new All-Star Andre Drummond. How do you think Tobias Harris affects their chances?
Well, I think he definitely increased them, because you got to remember, last offseason, Tobias Harris was a player who the Pistons really coveted. So obviously he's been a part of their plan for a while now, so it doesn't seem like it's any type of an impulsive move. So getting him will probably actually solidify that front court for them, and will probably take them off the fringe and give them a much higher chance of getting a playoff spot in the East this season.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely moving forward to future seasons, I think Stan Van Gundy has a solid plan moving forward, and he definitely is emphasizing that youth factor. So, Vincent, would you say, I mean, putting all changes in perspective, maybe putting the fact that there weren't that many changes, do you think the trade deadline really has any impact on this season or maybe next season in terms of how the playoffs might be shaped?
I think as far as this season goes, it's not really a big landscape shifter as far as shaping championship contenders. I think this was a lot of lower level teams making moves that maybe they'll see some impact this season, but it's going forward, like you said, possibly with draft picks or structuring in that vein. I think the immediate impact of this trade deadline really won't be seen. Maybe next season, as you said, with the big move with Tobias Harris, we'll maybe start to see that. But as far as championship contenders or even maybe playoff contenders, this trade deadline really wasn't too monumental.
Okay, and the other big NBA story, of course, was the weekend before the trade deadline. We had All-Star Weekend. So we'll keep with you, Vincent. Did you have any favorite moments of All-Star Weekend?
Oh, well, you got Aaron Gordon with his hoverboard set up with the Magic mascot. It was a lot of fun. You know, a lot of people now saying the dunk contest is back, whether that means anything or not. I think it was a good, exciting weekend that the NBA maybe hasn't had in a while, and with Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon kind of duking it out, it brought some excitement maybe, and obviously with Kobe Bryant, having his last moment in the sun, that was pretty significant as well. So I would say the NBA probably, when they look back and evaluate it, it's one of the more successful All-Star weekends in recent memory.
Yeah, and some people were saying that maybe the All-Star events on Saturday with that, incredibly memorable dunk contest and a very tightly contested three-point contest with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, the Splash Brothers, duking it out. They said the Saturday might have even been better than the All-Star game itself, with a game with no defense. So do you feel that no defense in an All-Star game? You had one of the highest scoring games in All-Star history, if not the highest. I'm not sure on the numbers there. Do you think that the All-Star game is good for the game, to be able to see a game with the best players in the game, exciting plays, but no defense, maybe not the way the game is meant to be played.
Oh, well, I mean, the All-Star game, really, when you think about it, it's everything that detractors from the NBA think of when they try to think about the NBA. So, for the good of the game, I mean, no, it doesn't show, hard-nosed defense. It doesn't show players displaying strong fundamentals from a perspective of trying to, prove to, basketball purists that this is the best the NBA can offer. No. But but on terms of being, a revenue generator, a ratings generator, it's exactly what you would expect from it. It's an entertaining game where the best of the best are all having a good time. Making plays, obviously, they never attempt to make in a real game. And so, it's an entertainment thing. It's not a reflection of the sport itself, but it's a fun thing to see every year.
All right. Well, so we I guess moving past the All-Star break, we're now past the trade deadline. So I guess this is probably a good time as any to take a look back and see where we stand in terms of the playoffs. Do you think that there's any team that's really going to be able to take off those top teams in the West? So we're talking the Warriors, the Spurs, maybe the Thunder. They seem to be a step below. And then, so is there any team maybe in the mid? You have the Grizzlies, you have the Clippers, the Rockets have maybe taken a step back. Do you see any team being able to take it away from the Warriors or Spurs, Vincent?
I would say if the Thunder can string it together, it looks like they're probably going to wind up with a 3 seed. So if they advance to the conference semifinals, they'd most likely be playing the Spurs, which would be an interesting matchup, and I think a rematch of the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago when the Thunder reached the NBA Finals. But I think the main contender for the Warriors is going to come from either the Spurs or the Thunder, and more likely right now looking like it's going to come from the Spurs.
All right, so we'll just do it real quick. Who's your pick to come out of both conferences? Let's start with you, Vincent.
I think we're going to have a Warriors-Cavs rematch.
How are you?
I agree with that. None of the teams that are competing with them really made the moves that are necessary to put themselves over the edge. I think things basically stand the way they were before the trade deadline. So, yeah, I do say Warriors-Cavs.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love to see some new blood in the finals, but I'm inclined to agree. The Spurs have struggled against top teams. The Thunder seem that they're just missing a little piece. I mean, their defense has been pretty poor when it comes down to crunch time. So I see Warriors, Cavs, and we'll see what happens. That's all the time we have for Throwing It Up. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll be right back with more Sports Zone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SportsZone. This is our premier college basketball segment. I'm joined alongside with Deepak Bhagat, and there's some big news coming out of college basketball, I'd say, this week. 3 big monumental losses. Oklahoma losing, now dropping to number 5 in the AP rankings. The thriller in North Carolina in Chapel Hill at Dean Smith Center with UNC getting upset by Duke, and UMD losing to Wisconsin. So, Deepak, out of those 3 big matchups, which do you think is going to have the greatest impact on tournament time?
I think it's definitely the Duke and UNC matchup. I mean, it's always going to be a thriller over there. Definitely a lot of bad blood between both teams. I wouldn't hesitate to say that there was probably a few riots going on after that game, but that can be expected. It is, North Carolina basketball, and I say North Carolina as the state, not just UNC. I think that this is a huge win for Duke. Obviously, Coach K's team has been struggling this entire year. They're currently ranked 20 in the rankings, and so they are slowly making their way back up. Or they were ranked 20. Sorry, they are ranked 15th now. They're slowly making their way back into relevance. That's more than a team like Kansas State could say, and Wisconsin as well. Even though Wisconsin did just beat Maryland, so I think that with this game, it will always be a thriller, and it's always going to have the biggest implications going into the March Madness tournament, because you can never fully rule out one of these elite teams. I mean, as bad of a season as any of these guys have, they will be going far when tournament time starts.
Yeah, and I definitely think tournament time is going to be an interesting time, since it seems like still nobody wants to be number 1.
Yep.
However, the Fighting Pride of Philadelphia, the Villanova Wildcats, seem to be wanting to hold on to that number 1 spot. Deepak, what's been so successful for the Wildcats this year?
It's really just been an overall balanced attack. I mean, the Wildcats are standing at 24-3 on the season, still holding that number 1 rank according to the AP poll. And overall, it's just been a solid effort by Jay Wright's team. I mean, Jay Wright is still, in my opinion, one of the top coaches. He doesn't get enough respect compared to coaches like Coach K, Bill Self, and John Calipari. However, that being said, he hasn't hesitated to use younger underclassmen role players, really. I mean, on senior day alone, I believe they said it was 2 freshmen who stole the show. And that really shows that this program is in for the long haul. They have unfortunately never made it too far, or as far as many Villanova fans would like in the March Madness tournament. But I think that this year they could definitely make that stronger push. It's that year.
And I definitely think there could also be a lot of implications, and I think Philadelphia will be going nuts as Villanova makes their push towards the finals in the tournament. Now, kind of, since we're almost there, it's almost conference tournament season. The Patriot League tournament's going to obviously come up, and we're going to have to deal with that with American. But also, taking the DC stage is the ACC tournament down at the Verizon Center from March 8th to the 12th. Deepak, who's going to come out of the ACC and lock up their automatic bid?
You know, I wish I could actually throw a solid team out there. I could not tell you. I mean, I think that, and I'm going to be honest here, I honestly could not tell you because it's the way this entire season is going, not only for the ACC, but for any and every conference. Selection Sunday is just going to be one of those days where there's going to be a whole lot of upsets and a whole lot of just really a lot of head scratching going on. Regardless of conference winners, you're going to see a lot of popular media judgment coming into play, and that's what's going to dictate the future down the line. But for the ACC conference, I couldn't tell you. But Ryan, what do you think?
Again, it's too close to call. There's way too many teams that have kind of balanced back and forth. Obviously, you have down UNC and Duke, which are obviously going to be perennial favorites. But I think there's a lot of room for error.
Mm-hmm.
As we've seen this year, nobody wants to be number one. There's been about 7 or 8 different teams that have sat with the number one ranking that have lost it. Villanova, I think, is one of the few teams that's actually maintained that ranking for about 3 weeks or so.
They have 45 first place votes too. So.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting, and I think it's anybody's battle, and I think every conference, because Villanova did lose to Providence College, which ended their streak. So I think anything could happen in any of these tournaments, and I think this year will be very interesting to see what happens on Selection Sunday, as you mentioned.
Of course.
However, that is all the time we have for this edition of our college basketball segment. Alongside with Deepak Bhagat, I'm Ryan Siegel. More SportsZone coming to you after this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SportsZone. This is Ice Time. I'm Ryan Siegel. Fortunately, Rachel Hotmeyer could not be in today, so I'm going to ride solo once again on this fine segment. However, it was a big weekend in hockey. It was hockey weekend across America. Huge events going on, starting with Friday's Try Hockey for Free Day, moving all the way through nothing but nonstop NHL games on NBC on Sunday, including a big Stadium Series matchup between the Minnesota Wild and the Chicago Blackhawks at the University of Minnesota football stadium. And it was a dominant performance for the Minnesota Wild, taking home a 6-1 victory. I believe the most goals ever scored in an outdoor game. They played a complete hockey game, the Wild, and obviously, and I think apparently to many, the Blackhawks just seemed simply overwhelmed by the Wild attack. They were probably not expecting it. Corey Crawford did have a very off game. It seems like the Blackhawks are in a lot of these outdoor games. You would think they would be able to perform a lot better than the Minnesota Wild, who this was their team's first outdoor game in franchise history. Turning back indoors, the 3 stars of the week this week. First and foremost, Jaromir Jagr clinches the first star of the week from the Florida Panthers. Had a dominant week. He passed Brett Hull on the all-time goal-scoring list. He is now in sole possession of 3rd place. In 2nd place, you have Eric Haula from the Minnesota Wild, who had a dominant performance with 4 points at TCF Bank Stadium at the University of Minnesota in the big 6-1 win against the Blackhawks. And 3rd start, Craig Anderson of the Ottawa Senators. Anderson played a phenomenal weekend, racking up a save percentage of about .96 on the entire weekend. It was a huge weekend for Ottawa, really going 3-0 as this week progressed. Turning to the the division standings, the Florida Panthers still maintaining the top spot in the Atlantic Division in the Eastern Conference, with Tampa Bay and Boston closely behind at 70 points. Boston and Tampa Bay are both tied. Tampa Bay, however, has the tiebreaker. Closely behind them, only by a point at this point, is Detroit. Detroit is also sitting in a wild card spot. Detroit is sitting in the first wild card spot. So I definitely think it'll be very interesting to see who kind of fluctuates between Tampa Bay and Detroit. In the Metropolitan Division, the Capitals have pretty much run away with the division. They are up 16 points on the New York Rangers, who are sitting in second with 74 points. And the New York Islanders, who are sitting with 69, are sitting in third place, with the Pittsburgh Penguins nipping right at their heels in the second wild card spot at 68 points. New Jersey closely following them at 65 points, and Carolina 64 points. So I definitely think there's a lot of room for any team to jump up and possibly claim themselves a wild card spot. Out in the Wild Wild West, you have the Chicago Blackhawks currently possessing a 1-point lead over the Dallas Stars in the Central Division. There's the Blackhawks sitting with 81 points, where Dallas is sitting with 80. St. Louis simply 1 point behind Dallas with 79 points. Central Division normally pretty packed as it comes towards the top of the standings. Right behind them, you have Colorado and Nashville, who are both 10 and 14 points behind, respectively, but they will probably claim wild card spots based on how the rest of the National Hockey League and the rest of the Western Conference and the Pacific Division is doing this year. In the Pacific Division, you have the Los Angeles Kings up 2 points with 72 points on the Anaheim Ducks, who are sitting with 70 points, and the San Jose Sharks, who are 3 points behind the Ducks at 67 points. Definitely a lot of room for fluctuation there. I still envision that the Kings will probably win the division. If not, they will get a home playoff berth in the first round. And then after that, you have Arizona down a lot lower, sitting about 4 teams below the wild card line. They're sitting with 60 points, followed by Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. Now, turning to this week, there's a lot of big matchups. Tonight, you have the Montreal Canadiens and the Nashville Predators. Could be a very interesting matchup up at the Bell Center. Tomorrow night, over at the Prudential Center, you have the New York Rangers taking on the New Jersey Devils in what can be a very big game for the New York Rangers, as they need to continue to manage to rack up 2 points every night. On Wednesday night, you have a big matchup down at the Verizon Center. The Montreal Canadiens will be playing the Washington Capitals. Canadiens really looking forward to trying to rebound and possibly build on any prior success. They're looking to probably get Carey Price back very soon. Pittsburgh and Boston and San Jose and Colorado are the two NBC Sportsnet Wednesday night rivalry games this week. Definitely a lot of action could be happening in those games. Definitely looking forward to taking a look at them. And then you have a big Thursday night matchup between Nashville and Chicago with huge Central Division standing implications on the game, as it is a very tight, packed race. But anyway, that's all the time we have for this edition of Ice Time. More Sports Zone coming to you after this. Hello, welcome back to Sports Zone. This is our rapid fire segment, not to be confused with our other ATV show, Rapid Fire, where we talk about everything that really can't fit in another segment. So there's a lot of big stories out there in the world of sports this week. I think the first one, and probably one of the more interesting stories, Peyton Manning is being allegedly accused of sexual assault from his days at University of Tennessee. Now, I'm joined alongside with Vince and Nate. And Nate, is this true?
Yeah, this is also not the first time this has happened. This is actually the second time that the case has been brought up, and the first time it was brought up that Peyton actually won in trial. So this is the second time it's been brought up, and I find it's really interesting that she went to court right after the Super Bowl win.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of possible bonus money that somebody's after, and maybe she's hoping for a Peyton Manning settlement. Also, turning to, I guess, the boxing world now, Manny Pacquiao grotesquely outright against people who are of a certain sexual orientation. Manny Pacquiao, as many people know, is a devout Christian, appeared very homophobic with his comments. And Vince, I gotta ask you, what is this going to do for the Pacquiao image moving forward?
Well, as he's fading now and becoming older, this is the lasting image that people are gonna have of him. Not all the great fights he's had, not Mayweather, Pacquiao, which we build up. This is what the lasting image will be. Kind of what they had with Mike Tyson. The lasting image was him biting the fellow boxer. This is, I think, what a lot of people are gonna remember with Manny Pacquiao, not his fights, especially his boxing isn't really as mainstream as it used to be. So, and you see that like with people wanting to disassociate with him, with Nike dropping him as a sponsor. I think this is just. It's not good for his image as he's fading into irrelevance anyway, and this is just a lasting impact that's just going to be very negative.
What did you think of the Adidas sponsorship? They redid all their sponsorship, and how they sponsor players post Pacquiao statement. What do you think about that?
I think it's definitely very interesting of what Adidas has done, kind of remodeling everything after the Manny Pacquiao incident, but it's definitely a step that needed to be taken.
Yeah, exactly.
Turning to, I guess it's still fighting, but we're gonna more mixed martial arts. The superstar of women's mixed martial arts, women's UFC, Ronda Rousey, appeared on Ellen DeGeneres in full tears, pretty much stating that she was suicidal after her match with Holly Holm. And Nate, I've got to ask you, is this an attention thing, or could she have genuinely been suicidal, the Rowdy Ronda?
I think she could generally be suicidal. It's her first loss ever. Learning to cope with losses as an athlete is hard, especially at that level. If you're expected to dominate, expected to perform every single time, and you don't do that, it's rough. And a lot of the athletes said out there on Twitter, it's like, hey, we feel bad for you, but sometimes you gotta learn to lose.
Vince, any stance?
I would agree with that. This was it was very marquee, and I don't think a lot of people going into the match expected Holly Holm to do much of anything. So it could have really been a shock to someone who's she's a larger than life figure really in the MMA. She's got she's got her acting gigs and all that. So I think suicidal. She could have been extremely depressed. She could have been just suicidal. I don't think we can really comment or speculate too much on that, but I think it's very, very plausible given the high level of success she experienced and maybe not being accustomed or used to things when they're not really going her way.
She definitely brought the women's bantamweight division into the limelight, really revolutionizing the sport for women, showing that women can and do belong in UFC. Turning to the track down in Florida, I know Rachel will be very proud that we're talking about this, but Denny Hamlin picks up the win in the Daytona 500 after pretty much dominating, leading the most amount of laps yesterday in the 500-mile race at Daytona. Vince, what is this going to do for Denny Hamlin's season?
Well, Denny Hamlin, a local boy from Virginia, always reminded that. I think he's had a lot of cup pushes in the past where maybe he's kind of fallen off and not really been there at the end when the championships decided. But it's the Sprint Cup season is really long. The NASCAR season is really long. So when you look at Daytona 500 winners in the past, going on to really compete for the championship maybe is a little bit far-fetched. But with the new format, the win I think almost guarantees him a place in the playoffs at the end of the year.
Oh so yeah, he's definitely
he's guaranteed in there. And Denny Hamlin's he's an experienced racer. He's a good racer. He's kind of been in that upper echelon before. So I think. It's a big win for his career, obviously winning at the Daytona 500, one of the most iconic races. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
A few other things. This was the first win, I believe, for Toyota racing in the history of the Daytona 500. Now, Nate, I got to ask you, it was also the closest finish in Daytona 500 history with Denny Hamlin edging out Martin Truex Jr. by pretty much like an eyelash at the finish line. What do you think kind of happened going through those last 10 laps? Because it really looked like anybody's race.
Yeah, I think Hamlin just raced better in the last couple laps, pulled it out. The last lap, kind of, I think I told the whole story of kind of how the race went. It was Hamlin domination the whole way, and he just clutched it out with, I believe it was a 0.19 second win, which was awesome to see, because that rarely happens in NASCAR.
Yes, it'll be certainly interesting to see how this season finishes up. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this segment of Rapid Fire. More Sports Zone coming to you after this.
Hello and welcome back to Sports Zone. This is a little bit of a unique segment. We're gonna smack down a little bit. We're gonna get a little bit raw. We're gonna talk about professional wrestling. WWE's Fastlane pay-per-view was this past Sunday. Probably the most marquee match was the triple threat between Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Brock Lesnar to decide the number one contender going into WrestleMania to face Triple H. So, Nate, Roman Reigns was victorious. Where do you kind of see the storylines for all three of these characters going forward?
The interesting storyline is that Roman Reigns is going to be in the main event at WrestleMania 32 for the second year in a row, which is massive, and another marquee matchup versus Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship title. And speculations have been in the internet wrestling community that Dean Ambrose will go on to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas. Another interesting storyline coming from the night was that no titles changed at the hands at WWE Fastlane. So Kevin Owens still remains your IC champion, as well as Charlotte still retains the Divas Championship. What is interesting going into WrestleMania, and what a lot of wrestling fans want and also speculate, that the title match between for the Divas Championship is between Charlotte and Sasha Banks, who are huge rivals in the WWE promotion, kind of like a B League called NXT. Which also brings me to this huge signing by WWE that was solidified this past Saturday of longtime New Japan Pro Wrestling star Shinsuke Nakamura, which is huge, and that he's going to be debuting at the WWE NXT pay-per-view event called NXT Dallas, which is really, really interesting.
That's pretty exciting. And then you mentioned Brock Lesnar, who famously broke The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania a couple years ago. Undertaker potentially rumored to be featured again at this year's WrestleMania. Do you have any speculation about potentially who he could be facing?
The big talk for a big long time has been John Cena, and also that this will be Undertaker's last match in the WWE. He's been with the company for around 25 years now, which is wild to think. Debuted at Survivor Series 25 years ago, and since it will be in his home state of Texas, and people think it's going to be John Cena, but yet we haven't seen him. He hasn't been on TV because he had a big shoulder injury and had to get surgery. So people don't know what's going to happen.
That'll be definitely interesting to see John Cena, probably one of the biggest names in professional wrestling at the time, going up against Undertaker, who, as you said, has been a legend for a long time. So that's all the time we have now. Road to WrestleMania, which will be in April. Maybe we'll see another wrestling segment going forward, but we've smacked down, and that's all the time we have. Stick around for more Sports Zone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Zone. This is our favorite segment, as Deepak the God says, Thumbles. Thumbs up, thumbs down, where we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly in sports and in life in general. So I guess I get the pleasure of kicking it off this week. Thumbs up to Denny Hamlin for winning the Daytona 500. He dominated the entire race. So he was definitely the deserving candidate, edging out his teammate Martin Truex Jr. But overall, it was a big weekend for Toyota racing. Thumbs up to the Minnesota Wild for the huge Stadium Series win, 6-1 over the Chicago Blackhawks, the most amount of goals ever scored in an NHL outdoor game ever. Winter Classic and Stadium Series combined. Thumbs up to this weekend was hockey weekend across America. It was great to see all of the USA Hockey stuff that was going on. As I'm currently an employee for USA Hockey, I definitely think it was interesting to see everybody out on Friday wearing their jerseys and seeing a lot of new people around the rink. All right, I got to go thumbs down to the New York Rangers. They're playing horrible hockey right now. It's just not good. I mean, yes, they're winning, but a 1-0 win in overtime shouldn't be happening in the National Hockey League. Granted, Jimmy Howard stood on his head, but still, there's reason to be suspect. I know Deepak's going to love this one. Thumbs up to pitchers and catchers reporting. It's back to baseball season, so getting to third base will be coming back probably within the next week or two. If not, it will definitely be back after spring break, as spring training will be in full swing. But I know Deepak is hoping that his fighting Phils are going to find a way back to the promised land. I hope the New York Yankees can find a way, both of which I'm not sure will happen this year. Thumbs middle, I guess, to the fact that it's the NFL Combine. It's probably one of the least emphasized points in the NFL season, but I'll thumbs up, thumbs down to that. Like, thumbs down to Manny Pacquiao. That's obviously disrespectful. It's now 2016. Everybody has the right to be what they want to be, and they're allowed to live their life the way they want to. Well, anyway, that is all my thumbs. So I'm going to introduce Jake.
All right. Thumbs up to Alex Mack for opting out of his contract with the Browns for next season, giving him the opportunity to either re-sign and probably become the highest paid center in the NFL at 30 years old, or to actually make the move to a winning team he's been wanting to make for basically his entire career after going through, I don't even believe, one winning season his entire career with the Browns. So good luck to him in finding happiness however he wants it. And a big thumbs up to the American University rugby team for on Saturday defeating the George Washington University rugby team on a score of 7-5, with Zach Linsky and Alex Chavala both chipping in 2 tries in a very, very resounding win for the team.
All right, so we're gonna jump in right here with a thumbs down to the English Football Association. There is talk about diminishing or reducing the Barclays Premier League to 18 teams, implementing a midwinter break, and potentially diminishing the FA Cup by making it a midweek match and removing FA Cup replays. I think that's a little bit, it's brutal because the FA Cup is one of the most historic events in all of world soccer. It's a marquee thing. You get amateur teams that get to compete in the FA Cup, and to kind of diminish the monumentality of that is a little bit, I think that's a little bit, it's sad, and I really hope it doesn't come to fruition. And so, keeping in mind the FA Cup, we're going to go thumbs down to the West Brom and Chelsea fans this weekend at the FA Cup. Absolutely disgusting. West Brom was up 1-0 against Reading, then they allowed 3 straight goals, lost 3-1. And when the West Brom fans went over to applaud the away West Brom fans who had traveled to support them, supporters threw coins at the players on the team. One player was hit in the eye and started to bleed profusely. That's a classless act from the fans, so we're going to go thumbs down to that. Similar scenes were seen at Chelsea. Chelsea fans threw coins at Man City players. That's not okay. What's the deal with Chelsea? What's in the water in West London? We don't know. We're going to go also, keeping it fairly negative this week. Thumbs down because I'm in class while the Champions League is in session on Tuesday. I will miss Bayern Munich against Juventus and Arsenal against Barcelona. I have a dog in one of those fights, so I'll just be checking updates. So that's pretty bleak. Thumbs up to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University basketball. They got a big win over the rivals Richmond. They squashed the Spiders. That's how it should be. Richmond should not win those games. So we'll keep it good. And here's Cody.
Hello. Thumbs up for sports. Yeah. Thumbs up for spring break next week. Yeah. Thumbs down for midterm week last week. Boo. Thumbs down for bad weather last week. Kind of face. And thumbs up for Saturday's nice weather. Yeah. Now here's Deepak.
And last but not least, it's me. I'll start with my thumbs down. Thumbs down to me because the beard's gone and I don't like it. Thumbs up. Pitchers and catchers reporting. So that means, baseball is back. And baseball's always been back. It's a 365-day-a-year sport. I don't care what you guys say, I'm right or wrong. Thumbs down because it was once again stated that this was my favorite segment. It's not. Game the third is. That's that. Thumbs up to the Phils because they will be making it to the promised land. When I say promised land, I mean we're already in our rebuilding stage. So promised land's about 4 or 5 years off. I'm pretty excited because I love seeing these prospects sign. Or play. Thumbs up to Jimmy Rollins for signing a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox. They give him the inside track to be the starting shortstop, and that team should be interesting because they did add the likes of Brett Laurie and Todd Frazier this offseason. And with Chris Sale, they are pretty dangerous. Thumbs up to my friend Haley Smith. She's out in Brussels right now. I was talking to her earlier. She asked me what was the deal with, not Chelsea, but our basketball team. And then she went on a rant. And it was wonderful because she ranted about how the Princeton offense doesn't work anymore. She likes Mike Brennan, but he needs to really, make changes there, play our freshmen because they're good. And you know what, Haley? I agree with you. Then again, we'll see where things go. And last but not least, thumbs up to Dan. Congrats, Dan. Hashtag DanMark is trending on Twitter and on Facebook. Not really. I just wanted to see if you would look, and I think you probably are right now. That being said, we miss you, Dan. And that's all the thumbs I have for now because I can't think about what I was going to say. But for Jake, for Ryan, for Vince, for Cody, for Jessica, for Matt, for Nate, Deepak, thank you for watching Sports Zone. We'll see you next week.
Clear.
All right.
Smackdown.
Fuck. SmackDown. Cody, get your ass in here. Hurry up. Come on.
Okay.
Oh,
The camera's rolling right now, right?
Probably.
Camera's rolling.
Bloopers.
What are we doing?
we're doing
Thumbs.
Oh.
Get out of the middle of the camera, though. We're starting. The camera's rolling.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is like the intro.
Deer in the headlights.
4.
We have a fun name. for this segment.
3, SmackDown.
2.
Hello and welcome back to Sports Zone. This is something a little bit unique. We're gonna smack down. We're gonna keep it a little bit raw. This is our wrestling segment.
Cut. Do you see this?
There's no cheers in wrestling.
Trying again.
There's no cheers in wrestling.
I need to collect myself.
Deepak, please tell me you're seeing this.
Just in a moment.
Oh my god, this is too funny. Okay, we're ready to go. He's